Thumbs up. We're so excited to have everyone on this very important call this evening. Thank you all for joining. I wanted to open up. My name is Cassandra Bandy. I am board chair for Bethel's Family Christian Academy and also a member of the legislative committee for the Jack and Jill Houston Metropolitan Chapter. We have come together in collaboration with our communities and our networks to bring you this very important information session. What I have found out is that it is actually National School Choice Week, which is very fitting as millions of families navigate different levels of school choice, whether it be looking in their own school district and communities for schools or looking outside for innovative ways to meet their students' needs. So this is a very timely session here in Texas and in the nation as we celebrate National School Choice Week. And so we just want to welcome you all here. Thank you for the engagement and taking the time. This we're blessed to be here and have this virtually. We were hoping to be in person, but that opportunity will soon come. We hope that all your families are warm and safe and weathered the winter storm weather as best they could. We have some folks here from North Texas and Central Texas, so we're so happy that everyone was able to join us tonight for this very important conversation. Um, if I may give the floor to the head of school at Bethel's Family Christian Academy to welcome us all here. Is Miss Darden on the line or Miss
Yes,
Pye?
I'm on. I'm sorry, my camera's. I apologize for that, but I'm here.
Okay,
Okay.
wonderful. If you'd like to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dana Darden. I am the executive administrator of Bethel's Family Christian Academy. Thank you for joining us for today's informational session on TEFA. Bethel's Family is a Christian-centered private school with open enrollment. We currently have 18 months to fourth grade scholars. We are truly excited about being a part of the TEFA program and accepting students upon approval. We recently received our letter. We're excited about that. We look forward to learning more, partnering together, and continuing to expand opportunities for the families that we serve. Thank you, Ms. Bandy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Darden. We appreciate that a very warm welcome. And now I will take the opportunity to introduce our esteemed panelists for this evening. We are so blessed and honored to have them here. I have had lots of conversations and interactions with these folks, these amazing women who are trailblazing and doing so much good work on behalf of our families. And we're so honored and thankful that you all took the time to join us today. First, we have Miss Shannon Jaquette. She is a program specialist at the Comptroller of Public Accounts office in Austin. She is directly impacting our outreach and ensuring that our communities are aware from the comptroller's office, directly from the comptroller's office, the administrator of this program, what's the latest, whether it be the rules, the engagement, the application, anything that is official is coming out of the comptroller's office. So we are so thankful, Ms. Shannon, that you joined us this evening. We also have Ms. Laura Colangelo, Executive Director of the Texas Private School Association. She has worked truly tirelessly on this legislation on behalf of families, on behalf of private schools. She knows this stuff inside and out. So we are so grateful that Miss Laura Colangelo has joined us this evening. We also have Miss Anita Scott, Policy Director for Texas Homeschool Coalition, another tireless advocate. And when I mean tireless advocate, I truly do mean that literally. These ladies comb the halls of the state capitol. They testified, they did all the work in the background to ensure our families were well equipped and resourced here as we go into the 26-27 school year. So thank you to all of you for all of your hard work and your dedication to the families of Texas and taking this opportunity to educate folks on this very new program that people have lots of questions about. So we are so thankful and honored that you took the time to do so this evening. So thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
ladies.
for having us. We're happy to be here.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so, again, and my apologies for those abbreviated introductions. I do you ladies no justice. I tried to emphasize it, but again, thank you so much. We want to be a good steward of everyone's time and just go and get right into it. So I'm going to pass it to you, Miss Shannon Jaquette, for the guests that are here. We're going to have a presentation that speaks on just general information and overview and actually some details. I don't want to call it general, but there are some details around the program that are very important to know. We will then have a Miss Laura and Miss Anita give, their spiel on what they do for their organizations, and then we'll have some general Q&A. We have some questions that we've already gotten in, and then we'll also, if you all have questions, please put them in the chat if you're on Zoom, and we will do our best to answer all of those questions. You can put them in real time, and we'll address them when the time comes for Q&A. So, Miss Shannon, I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time this evening to learn about the Texas Education Freedom Accounts, which the Comptroller is honored and very excited to launch. I know you're all eager for information and have many questions, so let's jump right in. So what is TEFA? The Texas Education Freedom Accounts is a piece of historic legislation that was passed in the 89th legislature that at the time was, it still is known as Senate Bill 2, authorizes the comptroller to establish and administer this education savings account program, which is now known as the Texas Education Freedom Accounts, TEFA, to provide families more educational options and to increase access to public school alternatives. TEFAs are intended to help families choose the best educational setting for their children, whether that be private school, homeschool, online, or a hybrid option. So who is eligible to receive a Texas Education Freedom Account? An eligible child must be a citizen or legally present in the United States and eligible to attend a public school in Texas. At least one parent or guardian must be a Texas resident. Additionally, children who are eligible to enroll in a free pre-kindergarten program in the public school district are eligible to receive a TEFA for pre-K services. So what is the benefit of participating in this program? A TEFA can be used for a variety of educational expenses in a variety of educational settings so that families can tailor their children's organization to something that best suits their needs. A child who receives a TEFA that attends an accredited private school will receive $10,474, which is 85% of the estimated statewide average of state and local funding per pupil. Special education students attending an accredited private school may receive up to $30,000 depending on their individualized education program or IEP. And homeschool students will receive $2,000. So how will these funds be dispersed? Odyssey is the certified education assistance organization that is helping to administer the TEFA program. So an account can be accessed through an online portal where funds can be directed toward eligible expenses. These eligible education-related expenses that will be covered by a TEFA include tuition and fees at a private school or a higher education provider, an online program or a program that provides training for an industry-based credential approved by TEA. It also covers textbooks and other materials such as curriculum, required uniforms, fees for classes provided by school districts that do not qualify a child to be enrolled in public school. And it also covers academic assessment costs, private tutoring, transportation to and from providers, educational therapies not covered by private insurance or federal, local, or state benefits, It covers computer hardware and software, although this is capped at 10% of the amount of the TEFA, and meals that are provided by a private school. So back to that pre-K eligibility. Only children currently eligible for pre-K in a public school, free pre-K in a public school, are eligible to receive the TEFA for pre-K services. So that includes a child who is at least 3 years of age and can either not speak English, is educationally disadvantaged, which is defined as being eligible for the National Free and Reduced Lunch Program, is homeless or in foster care, has a parent who is on active duty or who has been killed or injured while on active duty, and a parent who is eligible for the Star of Texas Award, which is an award for first responders who have been injured or killed on duty, and a parent who is a public school teacher in a district that offers free pre-kindergarten. So what is the application process? Well, we are very, very excited that the application will be available on Wednesday, February 4th at 9 a.m. Central, and it will close at midnight on March 17th, 2026. The link to the application will be available at educationfreedom.texas.gov, and documentation verifying lawful residence, household income, and if applicable, a child's disability will be required to be uploaded on the application. It's important to note that this program is not first come, first served. So if you are ready to submit that application at 9:30 a.m. on February 4th, you will have no advantage over someone else who submits it at 11:30 p.m. on March 17th. A lot of people are still awaiting they need to gather the documents necessary for the application. People are filing their income taxes. Some families might be waiting on an IEP. So that gives families plenty of time to submit their application by March 17th. So the documentation that will be required for the application for lawful residents, to verify lawful residents, you will need a social security number or a Texas identification number, and a social security number for your student, or a Texas driver's license or state ID. Alternatively, you can have a birth certificate or report of birth abroad, certificate of naturalization, certificate of citizenship, or other official documentation. We received a question from a military family that said they've got foreign partners who are here lawfully in the United States and eligible to attend public school. They're not citizens, but they are here legally. And of course, we said whatever documentation the military can provide indicating that will be accepted. If you don't have a Texas state driver's license or ID to verify residency, other acceptable documents are a utility bill, a lease agreement, a mortgage statement, a voter registration certificate. As far as income goes, the only documentation that will be accepted is a 2024 or 2025 U.S. tax return. Documentation for disability has a twofold purpose. One is for prioritization, and in order to be considered a priority applicant, you must, based on disability, you must submit a TEFA disability certification form, which is now available on the website, along with instructions on how to fill it out. Or you can submit a full and individual initial evaluation, an FIIE, if you have that, or a current or expired Texas or out-of-state IEP. In order to receive additional funding for the disability, you must provide a Texas IEP from one of the last 3 school years, 2023-24, 24-25, or 25-26. So what is prioritization? In the event the number of applications exceeds the number of available spots, which we do anticipate because there's a lot of excitement and a lot of enthusiasm for this program,
Oh,
applicants will be selected by lottery in the following order.
the fifth grade.
The first prioritization category is students who have a disability and who are members of a household with a total annual income at or below 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. And those guidelines have just been released for 2026. So for a family of four, that would be $165,000. You can go to the Health and Human Services website if your family is larger than a family of four. It has a chart that has multiples of the federal poverty guideline up to a family size of 14. So you don't have to do the math yourself. Prioritization category 2 are students whose annual household income is at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is $66,000 for a family of four. And priority category number 3 are students who are members of a household with a total annual household income between 200 and 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. And the final category, students who are members of a household with an income above the 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. In this category, public school students will be prioritized over students who are currently enrolled in a private school. And this category is also capped at 20% of the program. So after the application, you've submitted your application, what happens next? In early April, award notifications will go out and people will be notified of how much funding they've received, whether they're choosing private school or homeschool, and whether they have a child with a disability that's been documented by that IEP. Enrollment verification will occur in early June, and you will, at this point, select the private school that your child is attending. You do not have to have that information during the application period. On that application, you will only need to select whether the setting is private school or homeschool. In early June, you will select that private school your child is attending, and then the school will verify that your child is enrolled. And then in July, the funds will begin to be dispersed. If you are a homeschool student, the full amount of $2,000 will be dispersed for students in private school and those receiving the additional special education funding. There will be an initial installment July 1st, followed by a second installment October 1st, and finally, the full amount will be in the account by April 1st, 2027. So please visit our website at educationfreedom.texas.gov. It has a lot of information. It has that disability certification form that I just mentioned. It has FAQs. It also has a school finder where you can put in your zip code and browse schools that are currently approved to participate. That is happening on a rolling basis. Schools are being added every day, and there is no deadline for providers to participate. So as the program continues, over time, over the years, hopefully, more schools and more providers can be added and will be on that school finder. You can also email questions to educationfreedom@cpa.texas.gov. And we are here, Laura and Anita and I, to answer any questions you may have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. We did get a few questions, and I do want to let our participants know that we've logged those and we'll get to them. Before we do that, I would like for Laura and Anita just to speak about their work and why this is so important to the network of families and schools that they service. So, Laura, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you as a representative of the Texas private schools. If you could just speak to why this is important to your network of schools, how many of private school students are in these priority buckets. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that, and then we'll have some more questions, I'm sure, for you later.
Okay, yeah. Shannon, that was great. That's the first time I've seen that official PowerPoint. So when you share it, I'm going to use it because I have some more of these sessions. So um, that is helpful. So again, I'm Laura Colangelo, Executive Director of the Texas Private Schools Association. So I represent the roughly 1,000 accredited private schools in the state. So these are the schools that get to participate in the program. And they are excited to do that. They are on pins and needles. I saw a question about Bethel School getting their link to apply, and the answer was yes. So I'm very, very happy to hear that. When you go to that important website, educationfreedom.gov, you can see the school finder is one of the main links. And there's a map there of all the private schools that have registered so far, and as Shannon mentioned, more and more will be added every day. So that's an easy way to see which schools are participating right now. But I can tell you this is game changing for a lot of private schools, and more importantly, for a lot of families across the state. So getting that 10,474 up to 30,000 for children with disabilities will change lives and change generations of families. And we were honored to work on it. Shannon was part of that team in the hallway for years too. So along with Anita and myself. So we've been working on this, talking ourselves blue in the face, trying to get this done. And it finally happened. So I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions later on, but I would have needed to get a chance to introduce herself too.
Thank you, Anita.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cassandra, and to Bethel just for hosting this webinar. It feels like an honor to be a part of something where you want to empower and equip families so that they have the information that they need to make the best informed decision for their families. So I just thank you all for having your hand at their back so that they can do that. I just want to echo what Laura said. Shannon, that PowerPoint, right? Haven't seen that presentation before. So I'm going to be grateful when you share that so I can emulate and use that same type of language. I'm Anita Scott, and I am the policy director with the Texas Homeschool Coalition and have been advocating for homeschool families since 2022. Interestingly enough, I was homeschooled. My parents homeschooled all 8 children, K through 12, in a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom home in Dallas. And so it's just interesting that I was homeschooled, and then I was a K through 12 teacher and administrator for about 10 years. And then I'm back in the homeschool sector. And so that's what I love though, because I feel like the Lord has given me an opportunity to recognize how it is not a one size fits all approach. Children are unique the way God designed them, and He did not design a one size fits all brain. And so everybody learns differently. And so this opportunity for school choice just reinforces the opportunities for families to steward how they want to how they want to educate their children. And so whether that's a private school or a micro school, a home school, open enrollment charter school, or a public school, this TEFA that has passed this last May gives everyone the opportunity to do that. And so I'm just excited to be here with Bethel and Cassandra, receive the invitation to, as much as I can, answer questions related to homeschooling and what that funding mechanism and that funding piece looks like, but excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so the chat is alive with questions. So I'd figure, let's go ahead and answer some of these questions that our very engaged audience has. I'm going to start up here. Let's see. So, one question, and this has come up before, and I will let you guys respond. What if you are married and file taxes separately? How does that, prioritize your family and all of this? And I see a few of you shaking your head, so I'll let you all answer, whoever wants to go first.
Well, I'll take this one, and how you just tell me and I'll answer.
Thank you.
So if every parent who has the child as a dependent on their tax form, that parent's income will be considered in total. So if both parents include the child as a dependent in their taxes, then that parent's income will be included. And so but as Shannon mentioned, it could be returns from 2024 or 2025. So for families that may be on the cusp of some of those lower income categories, you pick the year, go ahead and file the 2025 taxes and pick the year where the family has the least amount of reported income.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Moving right along, and this was kind of answered. I may just quickly do this one. It said, are there any specific private schools we can choose from? And so the answer is yes, but we want to be clear that you have to apply to a private school and get accepted separately from applying for funding. And so again, that school finder on the Texas Freedom Accounts website, we'll drop that in the chat just in case you all need to access it quickly, has which schools are on there. There are some schools that plan on participating that may or may not be in there just yet. So continue to check back. But that is the list, and it's kind of a dynamic, iterative list, and it's constantly having more schools and services being added to it. Ladies, did I answer that one okay? Or is there anything else you
You
want to add?
did, and there's a follow-up here. There's their rolling notification of all schools that are added weekly. Well, Shannon can probably answer this one, but my understanding is they were going to upload them once a week on Friday. Is that still true, Shannon?
I think at this point we are, especially before the application period, it's going to be updated like in real time as quickly as possible.
Right.
After that, when we get to a less frenetic pace, it'll slow down. But right now we're trying to update it as soon as schools are added.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's a good question. If I have a special education student who attends public school, can funds be used for private speech and other therapies without enrolling in a private school? So I will, Shannon, you want to answer that question?
The answer is no.
The answer is no.
Yeah, you cannot you cannot be enrolled in public school to receive a TEFA.
Now, there is a separate program called PDSES for students that are enrolled in public schools. So it doesn't mean there's no assistance. It's just not part of the TEFA program.
That's right. And that information can be found on TEA's website. That's the Parent Driven Special Education Supplemental Services. And that's a list of providers, and they provide a grant to families with children in public school to meet their special needs. And so we can provide more information about that as well. Let's see, with this question, how do you confirm if a school qualifies for the program? Well, that's interesting. The statute actually lays that out, and I'll let one of you advocates answer that question if you'd like to.
Well, for the private schools, it has to be an accredited private school. So if you go to a website, tepsac.org, which I will type here in the chat, then there's a school finder of all accredited private schools in the state. So it has to be listed in that database. And then they have to opt into the program. So not every school that's listed in TEPSAC will be listed in the school finder. We still have some eager to participate. We have some that are maybe going to wait a year and not participate in year one. Not many, but a few. So those lists are not the same. Definitely look at the school finder to find the school that is opted in so far. And then TEPSAC is all of the eligible private schools that could opt in, and maybe some are eager to do so as soon as they get that link.
Thank you. I'd just like to add also the 2-year in operation requirement that is more just a kind of like a school operation thing. But if there's a great new school that opened last year, they have to be in operation for 2 years continuously, right? You all, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, and I dropped the school finder link. So that's that long hyperlink. I just dropped that in there because you all were referencing it.
Thank you.
And there's a follow-up here. There's a school, the choice for private schools have a zip code limitation. Can parents choose private schools in different zones? Absolutely. Private schools do not operate in the same way public schools with a district from which they draw. So if there's a private school close by, or on the way to work or something like that is accessible to parents, or you do not have to live in the zip code for that private school.
Perfect. Perfect. One question here that I think will be kind of a combo is that there's some folks that are speaking about once a family does get rewarded, how do they continue to receive funds for the next year? And then how does it work when their school changes, like going from elementary to middle school or middle school to high school? So can we speak about, what that process looks year over year once families are enrolled in the program?
Sure. So once families are enrolled, they do not need to reapply. You are in the program as long as you remain eligible to be in the program. So if your child enrolls in public school, obviously you're not eligible to be in the program. If you move out of state, you're not eligible for the program. And funds also roll over if you don't use all of the funding, and this is really important, it'll roll over from year to year. So if you're attending an elementary private school, which is generally a lot less than high school, you can roll over funds and have that extra funding for when they attend high school.
Thank you. And that's a follow-up to a question I see here. And you answered a part of it here, Shannon. The full question is, if a family doesn't use the funding and can't find a school, is that money passed along to a family not initially selected? So can you just kind of speak to that?
Yes. So if you've gotten an award and it's just turned out that this isn't going to work, you haven't found the school that you want, you've decided that your child is attending public school, yes, it would go back and be available for another family.
Okay. Thank you. And this is an interesting question just about, families who are trying to determine income level and qualification. Does the website have an income calculator to determine which priority level the parent will qualify for in this program? I think sometimes, and even for me, it was that 200% to 500%, how do we know where we fall in this?
So we don't have the income calculator on the website, but as I mentioned, the Health and Human Services, the federal poverty guidelines are set by the federal Health and Human Services. And so if you go to their website, and I can get you exactly like that PDF, it will tell you, and it's based on, this is very important, based on adjusted gross income. So that from your tax return. And then there's a chart and it says, this is how many kids, and it does all the percentages because these multiples of the federal poverty guidelines are used for SNAP, TANF, all kinds of programs. And you can find that number there. And I will put that, let me find that. Put it in the chat.
You. While Shannon does that, Anita, I'm going to pose this question to you. It's a homeschool question.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is, when you speak of homeschool, are we speaking of the parents being the teacher, or a child is going to a public online school such as K-12? If so, will this be considered public school or homeschooled?
Great question. So it sounds like a twofold question. If you're being homeschooled, it doesn't necessarily mean that the parent has to be the one providing the instruction, because a homeschool can be a co-op, so you can have another adult providing the instruction. And so by law, to be homeschooled means that you have to have your curriculum in some kind of printable format or digital format. So it has to be either visible on a computer, printable so that it's paper. So there needs to be an adult providing that type of instruction. So that's homeschool. That's the first part. The second part is if you have an online public school curriculum and you are a part of public school attendance, then that is public school and you cannot receive funds for being a part of public school. So if you are at home, but you're doing public school online, then that is considered public school. So I wanted to make sure I differentiated that because that's a twofold type question.
That is. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to, I wanted.
Can I ask Anita though to follow up on, I'm sorry, I was searching my HHS website, so I don't know if you mentioned this, that if some families may identify as homeschool, but they've got maybe a high schooler who's in a full-time online program that could qualify as a private school.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that needs to be spread far and wide.
That's good.
So if you are a homeschooler And so let's even scale out. Homeschool does not have one face. And by that, I just mean homeschool, it can look like a hodgepodge of things. You may be a homeschooler and you take dual credit classes twice a week at your local community college, and you might go to a co-op one day a week. So that means you are homeschooling in your own home maybe 2 days a week. You go to a co-op and then you might go to take dual credit 2 times a week. That's a whole buffet. And that's the beauty of homeschooling, is because it's this big, extensive menu. What Shannon is speaking to and what you all need to know is that if you're a homeschooler, but if you opt to enroll in some type of accredited online private school, you are then eligible for the 10K, because you are using your expenses toward an online accredited private school in some form or fashion. So even if you're homeschool, and if you click for an online accredited private curriculum in some form or fashion, that enrolls you to be eligible for the 10K.
But let me clarify on that. So in order to know exactly which programs are accredited private schools, go to that TEPSAC website and type digital in the search bar, and it will populate the full online accredited private schools that are eligible. It's not every curriculum that is eligible for the 10K. It is those that populate when you type in digital in the search bar.
Are you able to drop that in the link, Laura? I mean, I'm sorry, the chat.
I put the TEPSAC website on there. I'll do it again.
Oh, okay, cool.
Excellent question that definitely had legs and tentacles. Thank you. That's a great question. So let's see here. There was one question around, does the student need to be in good academic standing or have good academic results? How are students selected? So if someone can expound on, what that is and the responsibility and the admissions with the schools again, that'd be great. Whoever wants to take that one.
Well, I can start with the homeschool part. Because in Texas, there is no criteria that you have to, in Texas, homeschool students do not have to pass like the STAR test or the public school standard test. And so that is not a part of how homeschoolers can be eligible. When you receive Shannon's presentation, you can look back and see like, okay, who's eligible? Citizens of Texas. You have to be, K through 12 school age. You have to be able to present that you are a resident of Texas. You cannot live in Colorado and apply for this program, right? So it lists the bullet points for how you can be eligible. And so that goes for homeschooling. You do not have to show like, your grades, the name of your curriculum, because if you choose a curriculum and you're able to purchase an MR, that automatically means you can use that curriculum. And so you do not have to, I don't want to say do not have to, but I guess the best way to say it is homeschoolers are free to continue homeschooling the way they have already been doing. And now they just have $2,000 to help offset the cost. That's the best way to say it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I don't know if Shannon and Laura want to speak
you guys want to
to.
go? Okay.
Yeah.
And Laura always explains this great with her work with the private schools, but if she could do it herself, she's probably so tired of repeating.
Well, I was typing it in the chat, so I actually missed the question. So sorry.
Well, she also makes it very clear that the private schools admission practices also, they are still free to operate the way that they operated. So it's important to know that that's the application for a private school is separate and it does not change. Their admission practices don't change. Their requirements for acceptance don't change.
Perfect.
Thank you, Shannon.
I guess the answer would be if you're interested in a really high performing, high achieving, private school, they only take, if you have to take a test to get in, then yes, your child would need to meet those standards.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's see here. And I'm going to broaden this. This is a Bethel's Family Christian Academy question, but I think it's applicable to all private schools and our panel can answer it. If we are currently enrolled in Bethel's Family Christian Academy or said private school, and plan to attend next school year, is proof of acceptance to a private school required for the TEFA application or the process?
No, those are two separate processes. So if families go in and apply for the funding, they don't have to have a seat yet in a private school. They do not have to say which private school they're going to, because that schedule, that calendar doesn't totally align. So when families go in from February 4th through March 17th, they can just apply, and they will have to say whether they're going to homeschool or private school, but they don't have to say which one. I mean, they have to say if it's homeschool or private school, but they don't have to say which private school. And then they can continue that process of reaching out to private schools, going through the admission processes, that sort of thing through. And I just heard new tonight from Shannon that I think you said mid-January or mid-June is when the Odyssey is going to confirm enrollment in a private school in order to transfer funds. So that's when that's going to be kind of the deadline, so that the families know, if families know their kids have a seat in that school by mid-June, then those funds can start being transferred to the school on behalf of that family. So so that was news to me, and I'm glad to know that. I have it on my notes.
And there's also, we want to get clear that there is some flexibility there, because we know that there are waiting lists, and that people, people get notifications separately from the TEFA, that a child may get a notification in July that they're off the wait list at the private school. And so if that notification happens later, there will be some flexibility.
Excellent. Excellent. This is a good question, and I want to make sure that we talk about it, because we do have a very wide audience here. And the question is around eligibility to receive a TEFA, right? I want to speak to the universal nature of our program here in Texas, but also to the prioritization. So maybe a summary, because the question is, what is the income cap for families to receive a TEFA? So if you can just kind of speak to that, Shannon.
Sure. So there is no income cap to receive a TEFA. Like Cassandra said, there is a universal element to this program. The legislature has determined that parents are the primary educators of their children, and that they know what's best for their children. So everyone should be able to choose that option. But that prioritization, the legislature wanted that prioritization because they know that school choice does exist for families that can afford it, for families that live in a zip code that has, fantastic public schools. And so for those who have not had that access, they wanted to give them, an edge to be able to get access to the education that they want for their children. So again, no income cap. But for that first priority, you need to have a disability and less than 500% of the FPG. Second level is 200 to 500%. Third level is, second is, now I have to go back to my slide.
Category number 2 is up to 200% federal poverty guidelines.
Yes.
No disability.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thank you. And then third category is between 200 and 500%. And then the fourth category is essentially everyone else. In that category, public school students are prioritized, and there's a 20% cap on participation in that group.
And while we're talking about caps, again, that is, then we have the pre-K eligibility, right? Yes. And so, and I wanted to say that because there's a question about that, for pre-K eligibility, is economically disadvantaged income based on the adjusted gross income. So again, pre-K is a different set of eligibility requirements for funding. So Shannon, go ahead.
Yes. So if the student is eligible for the national free and reduced lunch program, that is what defines educationally disadvantaged. And that is based on adjusted gross income.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Let's make sure we are.
Can I pop in for a second? Because I think we overlooked a little element of this, which is that, sorry, I got that on my phone too. The universal nature of it means that every family can apply. We don't know. We think there'll be incredible interest and it will, run out of funds, but we don't know that. So it's in any eligible family's best interest to go ahead and apply for the program because A, you don't know if you'll get it. You definitely won't if you never apply. But B, the comptroller's office is required to request funding the following year for every family that's on the wait list that doesn't get funded in year one. So the more families that show interest in year one maybe aren't funded the first year, the better chance the program grows in future years. So we would encourage all families interested in this to go ahead and apply. Don't look at that income level and think I'll never get it because you just don't know. We've never done this before. This is the biggest school choice program in history that's being rolled out. So there are a lot of variables here. So I would encourage all families that think they might want to try to go to a private school or homeschool to apply.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm gonna go through some I think some what I would deem some easy answer questions and then have a larger conversation because there are a number of questions around our special education families. So I want to spend some time on that. I wanted to handle this one first. Will there be a deferred status for receiving funding in cases when funds are freed up by families who no longer need them? So
No longer need them, meaning they graduate from high school or
they opted out.
Yeah, I mean, because again, this is you when we talk about universal, it's not necessarily need, right? And so I know this person, so I may follow up with them. But as we know today, there's no deferred status for any funding, correct? I mean, there's no like I got it now, but I'm not going to use it for 2 years.
No.
Right.
You have to be enrolled. Now, this is a little bit of a nuanced area. You do have to be enrolled in a private school or homeschooling, but you do have some flexibility on how much you spend because you can roll over any amount you choose to the next year. But you do have to be enrolled. You cannot be in a public school. And I saw this a couple of times in the chat.
Yeah.
In a public school and accessing the funds. You do have to be in a participating private school, and then it is up to the family to decide how much of the TEFA funds they are using for tuition. There's some flexibility because, as Shannon mentioned, transportation, online classes, tutoring, therapies, those are included. So families can decide, am I going to pay my private school tuition out of pocket and use some of it for these other things? That's why it's called education freedom accounts, so that they can do that.
Thank you. Another question here as we get into the special needs families and desires here. If you have a child with a disability but exceed the 500% of the federal poverty line, would you be in priority group 4?
You would be in 4. If you are currently in a public school, you would be in 5. Actually, Shannon, I don't know if you had category 4 and 5. Basically, you'd be in the last category, which is everyone else.
Wait, but this child has a disability, Laura.
Yeah, if you're over 500% of federal poverty guidelines, even though the child does have a disability, that goes into the last category. That's everyone else. And in that final category is the only category where public school students are prioritized over currently enrolled private school students.
Perfect.
Well, you're on mute, Shannon.
Sorry. It's also important to note, though, if you have a child with a disability, but you have income over the 500%, if you do receive a TEFA and you have an IEP from one of those 3 school years, that child is eligible for the additional funding.
And again, that additional funding is up to $30,000. However, whatever the amount is to educate your child in a public school, up to $30,000. Here's a question. I recognize there is a limited amount of funding each year. With that said, if you do not have students eligible this year, what's the likelihood of being accepted as the program continues? That's a good question. I do want to point out that the way the bill is structured right now, there's an increase in funding year over year. So while it is 1 billion is limited, the next earmark is what, 3.2 billion? And the ledge has to vote on it, but it's in there as an increase every year. So again, the idea is that this is going to grow. So likelihood is hard to determine. But the direction of the bill is that funding will grow as demand grows for this program. And I'll let you all weigh in on that.
Well, I think you spoke to it well. And Laura, you mentioned it too. Like the demand will increase based on people's interests. And so if we don't hit the funding cap, and if there's so much left over, then the Texas legislature will say, oh, we didn't need to pump that much into it. And so the demand will increase. And so our goal is to be like in the Capitol, letting them know the demand is high. And so by the next, the 2027 legislative session, okay, we can put more money into it because the demand was so high for all of the academic choices.
Excellent. And then there's just some questions around the support for our special needs families. So, the limited amount of private schools that are targeting special needs families and students versus those who are not. How is TEFA vetting is the question, and prioritizing these private schools if students with disabilities is a priority. So I'll let you all speak on that generally.
Well, TEFA is not prioritizing schools. There are about 50 schools that exclusively serve children with special needs. And I have a feeling all 50 of them are going to be on that school finder very soon, as they're allowed to. And about 75% of all other types of private schools, while they don't serve exclusively children with special needs, they do serve them to some degree. So the schools will be available, and it's up to the parents to decide if it's a good fit for their child. So instead of falling under IDEA, that controls that interaction in public school, where they have the IEP and that sort of thing in public school, it's different in private school. So parents go through the admission process, they look at this school and say, will this school serve my child? And the school says, yes, we can serve your child. And then there's a contract offered between the parent and the school that says, this is what the school can do. And the parent says, okay, I want that, or nope, I don't want that. I want to be in the public school with those IDEA protections. So it's just a different way of handling the parent-school relationship in private schools. And from what I've heard from a lot of families that are looking for another way, maybe they haven't been served the way they would like to be in the public school, they're looking for this other option. Oftentimes not. Public schools do amazing jobs serving those kids with special needs, and those families are happy and want to stay in that public school, and they absolutely should. What this program is meant to do is just to provide another option for those families that just aren't being served the way they would like to. So it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same sort of ARD process, IEP process, federal requirements that are in the public schools. It's a different atmosphere, a different setting, but the goal is to meet the child's needs. And if the school can do it, they are more than happy to get that contract and sign with the family to make sure that child gets their needs taken care of in this private school as well.
And I think that's pretty similar. This is very short, but similar to the homeschool avenue for the homeschooling families who have, children with special needs or neurodivergent learners. They know that they can help. The 2,000 will help offset the cost for, similar to everything Shannon mentioned earlier, like transportation to a provider or private tutoring or therapy, especially if you already have the IEP and in Shannon's presentation from 23 to 24, 24 to 25. Was it 22 or did he start at 23?
23.
23. Okay. So yes. So with the IEP starting at 23, similar, I'm just echoing what Laura said, similar for the homeschool families.
Perfect. We have 5 minutes here, and this is a good question around multiples and siblings. If I have multiple kids, is there a chance they all won't be accepted, but one or maybe two, such as it is 3 different applications I must submit, or is there a add sibling section? So can we just speak to the mechanics of the application and how it works for siblings?
If one child gets in, they all get in. The whole family gets to come along, because the idea is that, we want to keep families, if they all want to go to one school, it just makes it a lot easier for families that their siblings are all in the same spot, maybe not necessarily the same school. But I also saw a question on here, Cassandra, and I want to clarify this because this is coming up a lot. Carla asked if children have to be in private school in order to apply. for this program. You do not have to currently be enrolled in private school. You can currently, and in fact, in the fourth category, there is a bit of an advantage if you are enrolled in public school. So you just need to apply to a private school if you're applying for the TEFA.
Mm-hmm.
But
Great.
current enrollment, where your child is right now, does not have to be a private school.
Thank you, because that's a great point, because we just had a question from a charter school parent, and they said, well, basically, I can't apply. Well, you can if you want to
Mm-hmm.
enroll your child in private school. So definitely great questions, and wanted to clear that up. Let's see, another homeschool question. What would be the process for homeschooling families with students who do not have an IEP, but probably could or should? If they could be prioritized, is there a way for families to work on getting an IEP at this point? And the answer is yes, but Gabrielle, I also want to say that, the homeschool amount is $2,000 regardless of if there's a disability, right, ladies? So
Yes.
we can't mix the two, but for the purposes of the additional funding up to $30,000, an IEP is necessary. And I'll let one of you all speak to where that can be, private physician or, public school. Can maybe Laura, can you speak on that?
How to apply for the additional funding? Is
How
that what
to
you're
get an
asking?
IEP, the IEP.
Okay. Well, the IEP, you have to request that from the public school district, either that you live in or the
Right.
private school, if you're attending a private school currently, where that private school is located. So it is a process that a public school district has to go through to evaluate the child and determine what additional services that child would need in the public school. And so if you have that document, then the child will be eligible. And that document, which we said was from basically 2023 to current day, if it was generated during that time, then that could be uploaded into the application and that child would be eligible for the additional funding. If you don't have that official document within that time frame, and you either have an old IEP from years and years ago, you have something called an FIE, which is an evaluation that's given to private school students. If you have an IEP from another school district, or there is a form that has been generated by the comptroller to get it signed by a licensed physician or another licensed professional who can evaluate children to determine their disability, that would qualify the child for prioritization in that category 1, just not the additional funding up to 30,000. And that's been a big point of confusion all along the way. But for just to be prioritized to get in the program and get the 10,474, there are a lot of different options. If the family really wants the additional funding up to 30,000, it has to be an official IEP from a school district or a charter school. Charter schools can generate IEPs within the last 3 years.
Yes. And it's probably important for everyone to know that to request an IEP does not mean you have to enroll in the public school or the open enrollment charter school. By federal law, they can give you an IEP, diagnose your child, but you do not have to register to be a student in that particular school.
Right.
Oh, you're on mute, Cassandra.
I am. Thank you. We have one more minute, so I'm going to try to get in one more question just for clarity. Someone was asking about IDEA, and will that not be upheld in private school? Can someone clarify that? I know we brought it up, Laura. I think that was you.
Yeah, so IDEA is a federal law that is relevant in public schools. Private schools operate under contract law. So it is a separate set of laws that operate for private schools versus public schools. So private schools can and often do provide services that are also provided in the public schools through IDEA. However, that is legally, falls under contract law, which is the agreement between the parent and the school. So whatever is outlined in that contract, the school says we can provide this, this, and this, and this is how we'll serve your child. If the parent agrees with it, they sign the contract, they're operating under contract law. In the public schools, it is federal law that is dictated from on high, and there's no two-way street agency. It is what is specific to that arena. So it doesn't mean that the private schools aren't serving the children. It is just legally bound in a different way through contract law.
Thank you.
There was someone named Cassandra with the letter K who mentioned that there is a process for receiving an IEP. So if you are thinking, I think I want to opt into the program, I'm just not sure. You can go ahead and apply though. And you need to go ahead and start moving forward with working on having one child or two children, however many children, to receive, receive testing from a diagnostician at an open enrollment charter school so that you can receive the IEP, because there are timelines and deadlines. And so you can't walk in one day on a Thursday and think you'll receive the IEP by Monday. So there are 15-day, 30-day, 18-day type timelines. So keep that in mind.
Mhm. Thank you. I think there's an important question here. If we could just take a few more minutes around, what about children that are homeless under McKinney-Vento that may not have access to documents? What are the alternatives?
Well, Shannon, I don't know. Maybe you might know those specifics about what other documents would suffice.
To verify
Homeless.
what are we verifying? Obviously not
Well,
residency.
McKinney-Vento is a homeless student at
Homeless.
yeah.
Oh, okay. This is a question I'm going to have to get back to
Okay.
you on, because we've discussed the homeless for the homeless the eligibility for the pre-K. And
Right.
yeah,
right.
obviously the homeless is tricky, and I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I do not have a solid answer on that, so I don't want to speak.
Thank you. No, we'll make sure we get that back. And then someone asked for the link to the app, and thank you, Reverend Ford. He put it in there. The application is not open right now. It's February 4th, again, just to let you all know. And that link is educationfreedom.texas.gov when it will be available, and it will be open for until when, Shannon?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
March 17th.
Perfect. March 17th. And yeah, I mean, we are at time. I do see some more questions here. And I see Donna Shanklin, if we can get you some answers around. The question was around private schools receiving Title I, III, and IV funds. How would that affect TEFA?
They don't. Those are federal funds, totally separate.
It doesn't, right? So, yep, TEFA is Texas. And yeah, we're excited. I appreciate the feedback. I've been getting text messages. We've been getting great information here, that this was extremely informative. I want to thank Shannon Jaquette, Laura Colangelo, and Anita Scott for your time and your expertise. If I send you guys another email that said, hey, we need to do it again, we'll work together, because we know this is very informative. I want to thank the Houston Metropolitan Chapter of Jack and Jill for their collaboration and their membership. And of course, last but not least, Bethel's Family Christian Academy. Thank you for always being in front of the community and an advocate for parents and family, for a private Christian-based organization. We're behind you, we support you, and we love you. So thank you so much, everyone. The recording will be available. The link was in the chat. We will also get Shannon's presentation and share that out as requested. And have a good night. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Cassandra.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Landon.
Say bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Lyndon.
Hey.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, good night.
Officially, ladies, we exceeded 100 participants. I had to buy extra seats at 7:26. So
Okay, we still have people on.
Yeah, wildly successful, but it is on YouTube for everyone else. Okay. Say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Mommy.